Did you know that some of your dreams could be direct messages from God? Maybe you're like me and you have also wondered if some of your dreams have a somewhat hidden meaning because after waking up, they still lingered inside of your mind, unlike most of your other dreams, which fade away almost immediately after waking up. My name is Nomu, and in this video, we will talk about dreams. How to know which dreams are from God and what dreams are attacks from the devil, which also exist, and how to interpret important dreams from God so we can understand the message behind them. The fascinating thing about dreams is that even after so many years of extensive studies, we still don't fully know the purpose of us experiencing dreams in our sleep. We know that they tend to occur during the REM phase of our sleep, which stands for rapid eye movement, where the activity of our brain is high, but our body is momentarily paralyzed. We know that inside of our dreams, our brain processes daily experiences and may even perform some sort of nocturnal unconscious therapy. Hence why people who experienced something highly traumatic tend to dream about it even years later. But dreams have a way larger purpose than we give them credit for. When we look inside the Bible, we can find multiple instances where dreams played an extremely important role, whether it was about foretelling the future or God Himself speaking to someone. Dreams are a higher dimension outside of the dimension we, our bodies, our flesh, exist in. We, as the human beings that we are, live inside a dimension where the concept of time exists. Nothing we see is eternal. Our world is in a constant state of decay. While we are dreaming, we enter into a realm where our eternal spirit and soul are separated from our transient flesh. Dreams are basically a higher dimension where the concept of time and space does not exist. That's why we can see stuff that is happening in the future, because inside that dimension, the past as well as the future is the present. I know it can be difficult to understand, but stay with me. God and His heaven also exist outside of the realm of time and space. They are eternal. That's why when we pass away, our transient flesh can't come with us, but only our spirit and soul, which are also eternal. God can see the past and the future, because heaven is the highest dimension, where the concept of time does not exist. When we look inside the Bible, we can see examples of someone having dreams or visions about something that is occurring in the future. Therefore, it makes sense that dreams are taking place inside a realm where time and space also do not exist. The spirit realm, a place which only our spirit and soul can enter, because, again, only they can exist inside a dimension where time and space are non existent. Another aspect that speaks in favor of this is the fact that evil spirits can attack you in your dreams, and spirits can only exist and operate in the spirit realm, as the name suggests, but more on evil spirits and their attacks later. As I have mentioned before, God can speak to you through your dreams, and your dreams can be indicators of events taking place in the future. It happened to numerous people inside the Bible, and it happened to me in one instance. The most famous instance of dreams foretelling the future is probably found between Joseph and the Pharaoh. In case you don't know, to make it short, in the book of Genesis, the first book of the Bible, Joseph gets sold as a slave by his envious brothers to Egypt, and on top of all of that, he was also falsely imprisoned because of a crime he didn't even commit. His brothers were envious of him because God showed Joseph two dreams in which he was exalted above his family, and they basically had to bend the knee before him. Let me read it for you. You can find the two dreams God gave him in chapter 37, verse 5 to 8, and verse 9 to 11. First one. Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. He said to them, "Listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field, when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it." His brothers said to him, "Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?" And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. And second, then he had another dream, and he told it to his brothers. "Listen," he said, "I had another dream, and this time the sun and moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me." When he told his father as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, "What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you?" His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Those two dreams were the reason for him getting betrayed by his brothers and sold as a slave to Egypt, where he was then imprisoned. But it was inside that prison where Joseph learned to interpret dreams of others, and one day the Pharaoh had a dream that none of his servants could interpret. That's when one of his servants remembered how Joseph had correctly interpreted a dream of the servant while they were imprisoned together, and he told the Pharaoh about Joseph's abilities. The Pharaoh ordered Joseph to be released and told him about the following two dreams he had. You can find that in the book of Genesis also, chapter 41, by the way. The first one. Then the Pharaoh said to Joseph, "In my dream, I was standing on the bank of the Nile, when out of the river there came up 7 cows, fat and sleek, and they grazed among the reeds. After them 7 other cows came up, scrawny and very ugly and lean. I had never seen such ugly cows in all the land of Egypt. The lean, ugly cows ate up the 7 fat cows that came up first. But even after they ate them, no one could tell that they had done so. They looked just as ugly as before. Then I woke up." And the second one, "In my dreams I also saw 7 heads of grain, full and good, growing on a single stalk. After them 7 other heads sprouted, withered and thin and scorched by the east wind. The thin heads of grain swallowed up the 7 good heads. I told this to the magicians, but none of them could explain it to me." The meaning behind those two dreams is basically one and the same. God showed the Pharaoh inside his dream what God is about to do in Egypt. The 7 fat cows stand for 7 years of great abundance. The 7 lean cows stand for 7 years of famine that would afflict the land of Egypt afterwards. The fact that God showed him this dream in two different forms also has an important meaning. Joseph tells us in verse 32, there he says, "The reason the dream was given to the Pharaoh in two forms is that the matter has been firmly decided by God, and God will do it soon." Joseph instructed the Pharaoh on what to do and how to navigate through the famine that would be afflicting the land of Egypt in the future. And as a result of his instructions, he was made second in command over everything, from a prison to a palace. You probably remember the two dreams God gave Joseph I mentioned earlier. While the famine occurred, they came true. To make it short, Joseph's father, also known as Israel or Jacob, sent his sons towards Egypt because even they had almost no food, and the only major provider for food was the Pharaoh. And just like God showed Joseph in his dreams, his family had to bend the knee before him. Just to let you know, I'm leaving a lot of stuff out right now. It is a long story, and I highly, highly recommend reading it for yourselves in the book of Genesis. It's a very great story with a happy ending. As I have mentioned in the beginning of our conversation, God can use your dreams in order to communicate with you. It's not just something that's only happening inside the Bible. Some people say that every single dream is a message from God, but I don't believe that. You will also find some Christians who will tell you that they have regular dreams from God and make videos about it. I personally don't think that their dreams are from God. They are regular dreams which are just overinterpreted. If someone wants to, they can find a meaning in everything. But it is only my personal assumption, not an accusation. I don't know what their connection with God is, but I don't believe that God is giving them a new dream for every single video they upload. Again, I can of course be wrong. I'm not accusing them of anything. But what I know is that God told us in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 23, verse 25 to 30, and I quote, I have heard what the prophets say who prophesy lies in my name. They say, I had a dream, I had a dream. How long will this continue in the hearts of these lying prophets who prophesy the delusions of their own minds? And further down he says, therefore, declares the Lord, I am against the prophets who steal from one another words supposedly from me. Yes, declares the Lord. I am against the prophets who wag their own tongues and yet declare, the Lord declares. You will find many of them here on YouTube. I've been saved by God for about a year now, and I can recall 4 dreams, which I personally strongly believe God gave me in order not to prophesy, but to give me insight. It wasn't something I would prophesy about or anything like that. The dreams I had gave me more clarity and made me reflect on either my former life or my way of thinking. Those dreams just felt different. I can't really describe it. The first and second one were right at the beginning on my journey with God. I don't remember exactly which one I had first. Anyways, in the first dream, I was walking on a frozen lake. Suddenly, a little boy ran towards me, but the ice underneath his feet began to break and he fell into the frozen lake. After waking up, I first thought it meant that I was the reason for someone dying, or that I was standing on thin ice, but both of that was false. After I prayed to God for clarity and understanding, I started to reflect on my past life, before I was saved, and it made me realize how much favor God had bestowed upon me, and considering all the things I had done that I should probably be either in jail or dead. The little boy who fell into the frozen lake symbolized someone who had committed way less sins and evil deeds that than I had committed in my past. You know, the little boy weighed less than me, yet the ice underneath his feet broke from his, in contrast, light weight, but not from my massive weight. The only reason why it didn't break underneath my feet is God. He kept me alive and unharmed throughout most of my life, while there are people who had done way less sins and yet weren't as fortunate. You know, it was the weight of sins. After I reflected and realized out of how many bad situations that should have ruined me, God had brought me out of, it made me more thankful and appreciative of Him and His good works. The second dream happened very close before or after of the dream of the little boy on the frozen lake. Right after I got saved and born again by God, I felt the need to go and tell everyone about God and how He saved me and all of the stuff He revealed to me. You know, I wanted to immediately spread everything I thought was the truth and also made some posts on Instagram that were more than just false, let me say it that way. So, basically, the dream was about me. I just had bought a new baby parrot, but that parrot wouldn't stay inside his cage. He would always escape, fly, and jump around my room. Now, not only inside the dream, but also in reality, I have two cats. My two cats would persistently target as well as attack the baby parrot, and I constantly needed to protect and shield him with my hands so they wouldn't get to him. All while he kept flying and jumping around my room instead of remaining inside of his cage so he can grow up and grow strong because he just wasn't ready yet for the world outside of the cage. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm definitely not saying that I'm somehow God, but that dream symbolized the way how God was protecting me. You know, God showed me that I was just like this baby parrot and that I needed to stay at home, inside my secret place, in isolation, until I was spiritually grown enough to go out and not fall victim towards the devil and his schemes. I first needed to grow up into a mature parrot, so that way, just like a parrot, I can repeat what God taught and said to me. My cat symbolized the enemy trying to attack me. And the way I protected the little baby parrot symbolized how God protected me while I would constantly go out and tell people things I just wasn't ready for and that were wrong. Now, for the third dream, I need to give you a little backstory. The dream occurred in July or August, I don't know, definitely summer. Anyways, I used to have a friend which I unfortunately had to cut ties with due to some uh, not so nice things happening that led me to make that decision. He kept reaching out to me multiple times despite me telling him very clearly that I want to have nothing to do with him anymore, especially because he told me that I needed to apologize for something that he did. Every time where I refused and blocked his new account, he started showing his true face, you know, insulting me and all that stuff. After some time, I was going through heavy spiritual warfare, and I personally believed that he did some sort of witchcraft and curses behind my back to target me. I didn't see him for more than 1.5 years after the initial incident took place, and I will never forget how I met him again. Now we are getting to the dream. So basically, it was taking place at the central station of the city we live in. I was waiting for something, probably a train, and all of a sudden he came up to me and engaged in the usual conversation of me having to apologize to him for something that he did. But just like in the real world, I refused to do so and told him that I want nothing to do with him. When I said this, his whole demeanor and behavior changed, just like in the messages. He looked possessed and tried to strike and punch me, but he couldn't. That was also when I woke up. I thought to myself, man, what a weird dream, but didn't pay it any more attention than that. Compared to the other dreams I have, it was definitely on the lower part of the strange scale. So, after I started with my day and had my usual routine, I decided to take a walk and unintentionally I walked through the central station. I was on autopilot and didn't remember the dream at all until I met my former friend right there at the central station, the exact location I had dreamed about us meeting there. He was with his friends and in a good mood until he saw me. His head just dropped down as if he saw something highly disappointing. We walked right past each other. You know, I was just completely perplexed. Right after I dreamed about him, I met him exactly there, on the exact same place. Anyways, later on, I began to understand what the dream meant. The way how he tried to punch me but somehow couldn't was him trying to inflict some heavy evil witchcraft on me. But just like God told us in the book of Isaiah, chapter 54, verse 17, where he said, no weapon forged against you will prevail. It didn't work. You know, he probably thought that I was dead or in a very bad place, but thanks to God alone, I became the best version of myself. And when he saw me, his head just dropped because he realized that the weapon he forged didn't prevail at all. For the fourth and last dream, which happened about maybe a month later, I also need to give a little backstory. You know, I was growing very weary and was just frustrated overall. I kept applying to so many jobs, but I was continuously getting rejected every single time. And when I had the personal interview, I also failed. My hopes just continued getting crushed over and over. You know, I just felt like an absolute failure. And when I took another of many summer walks, I just started complaining to God. Now, I didn't curse or insult him or anything like that, don't get me wrong. I was just mad at my situation, that every door kept shutting right in my face, and I just couldn't get further, feeling totally stuck, as if God wanted me to suffer the same fate over and over and over. So I began to become angry and started complaining about my current situation, venting. When the day was nearing its end, I just knew that I would have a dream that gives me more clarity. I don't know why, but I just knew, and it happened. So the dream started with me meeting an old classmate of mine. We wasn't really close, but we also never had any problems with each other. It was neutral. We were talking about life, and he was wearing an expensive suit, symbolizing how he had a nice job. Throughout our conversation, he kept admiring me, pointing out all of the achievements I managed to reach in my life, only thanks to God, of course, and he gave me a new perspective. I realized that The only thing I didn't reach yet was that new job. And instead of viewing the full picture, I was only focused on that one single missing piece. He made me realize that maybe I viewed myself as a loser in that situation, but other people didn't see me that way in the slightest. Not only that, but he also told me how he was in and out of hospital due to some bad health problems. Problems that I never faced. That also changed my perspective. Just because someone looks well off from the outside doesn't mean that everything is going well in their life. So, we finished the conversation, and that's when I was moved to a little boy. I don't know how old he was, maybe 10 to 12 years old. So, we were talking about our hobbies and interests and had a great conversation. We talked about how we both liked the game Elden Ring and many other shared interests. At the near end of our conversation, he mentioned that he had some very bad health problems and that he probably wasn't going to make it past his childhood. And that was also the moment where I was already getting moved to the next person, even though I pleaded with God to let me continue talking with him because I felt more than bad and liked him very much. But I got moved regardless. The last person I had the conversation with was about my age, like 25, and he was very good looking. Basically, I was complaining to him about my current situation, how life seems to be unfair, and how every door just kept shutting right in my face, how I felt like a loser, and all of that stuff. He was listening closely, not saying anything, but I could see the anger towards me in his eyes. After I finished speaking, my eyes were fully opened towards his complete image. The guy was paralyzed from the neck down. He couldn't move at all. He told me in a calm but also angry way how his life was, how degrading it was to be cleaned by other people, not being able to help yourself, being stuck inside a body that you can't even use, having to watch everyone else living their life. My struggles were his dream. My worst day was infinitely better than his best day. While I complained about constantly failing and doors shutting in my face, he desired to have a life where open doors were even a possibility, if you get what I mean. Through those three conversations, God showed me that the most important aspect of life is health. No amount of money or valuable possessions will ever be more important than being healthy. I understood that we tend to take our health for granted. I understood that just because I couldn't find a job didn't mean that I was failing. I just had to view the full picture. And I also realized that there are people who dream about having my problems, dream about it. God wasn't mad or angry at me for complaining. We serve an understanding and patient God. He just showed me that, hey, that situation isn't looking so good right now. That's true. But let us view the full picture and let us be more thankful for what you've already gotten used to and are taking for granted. That dream really brought me a lot of clarity and understanding. Even though I still struggle with complaining on some days, it's something I really need to work on. I was always a very impatient person, but thanks to God, it has already gotten much better. As you may remember from the near beginning of our conversation, I also mentioned how not only God, but also the devil and his demons can attack you in your dreams. I have already made a more than detailed video about spiritual warfare and evil spirits. That's why I'm going to keep it short here. You can find a link in the description. I had so many, and I mean so many dreams where I was attacked by the enemy. Whether it was friends and people I know turning into demons, people with snake eyes following and stalking me, or just regular demons chasing me. But the worst of the worst are most definitely the succubus attacks, aka the wet dreams. They will make you fornicate in your dream and you will wake up just drained and exhausted. Not only that, but you will also feel more lustful throughout the day. Just yesterday I had one of those. I hate them so much. I couldn't sleep afterwards and walked not only drained, but also totally sleep deprived through the day. Before God saved me, I never had those dreams. But once I started to abstain from all sorts of lust, they kept attacking me relentlessly, trying to make me fall back in my old ways. On some nights, it even happened 2 times in a row. Another type of attack that can also occur during a sleep is the so-called sleep paralysis. That is something I haven't experienced often, on the other hand. Maybe only 8 to 10 times throughout my whole life. I'm curious to know what your experiences are. Please let me know, my friend. Dreams are such an interesting thing. We all have them, yet we know so little about them. But when it comes to interpreting them, the only one who can do that is the one who gave you those dreams, and that is God. Please don't listen to people who try to interpret dreams according to their own discretion. Only God can reveal to you the real meaning of your dreams. It was like that even with Joseph and also with Prophet Daniel when they interpreted the dreams of the Pharaoh and King Nebuchadnezzar. They prayed to God and asked Him to reveal the meaning of those dreams. It's God who does it for us. I also only understood my dreams because God revealed the truth to me. And like I said earlier, please don't think too much of every single dream. After all, they are just dreams. If God wants you to know something, He will make sure to help you understand it. Don't believe everyone that says, I had a dream for every single video they make. Again, it is just my opinion and an assumption, but I don't believe them. You form your own opinion. Yes, God still uses dreams to communicate with us, and we learn in the book of Job, chapter 33, verse 14 to 18, and I quote, For God does speak, now one way, now another, though no one perceives it. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls on people as they slumber in their beds, He may speak in their ears and terrify them with warnings to turn them from wrongdoing and keep them from pride, to preserve them from the pit, their lives from perishing by the sword. And also in the book of Acts, chapter 2, verse 17, where God says, In the last days, God says, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions. Your old men will dream dreams. So, yeah, God still uses dreams to communicate with us. Just Don't think too much of every single one again. And not everyone who tells you that they had a dream from God actually had one, as we've learned before. The Word of God is more important and stands above every single dream. So let us prioritize His Word, also known as the Bible. Just like God told us Himself in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 23, verse 28, and I quote, "Let the prophet who has a dream recount the dream, but let the one who has my word speak it faithfully. For what has straw to do with grain, declares the Lord." Amen. If you're interested in me talking more about life and God, give the subscribe button a warm hug, my friend. Liking and commenting would really mean a lot to me and also help get this video recommended to more people. In case you're interested in finding out everything about evil spirits and spiritual warfare, feel free to watch the video you're about to see on the end card. That's about it. It's your boy Nomu. I love you. God loves you. Take care and don't go hollow, my friend.